Greetings everyone, this is Ohio Dan. I wanted to make a pretty simple video today with a pretty simple message, which is don't be friends with an ex. I know a lot of people seem to want to think that being friends with their ex is a good idea because that person meant a lot to them, or they shared something special in the past and maybe they still have similar interests. They don't want to completely remove that person from their life because it's hard and all that kind of stuff. And there may be more practical, financial-based reasons in some cases as well. There's a lot of different reasons why people maintain friendships with exes, but most of those reasons are pretty stupid, in my opinion. Now, I'm going to go into why I think this is and detail a few exceptions to this, because there are a couple of major exceptions. But mainly, you don't want to be friends with an ex because that person is an ex for a reason. There's a reason why the relationship didn't work. And most likely, there was some pretty negative stuff that went down when you broke up. Whatever the reason was, or if there were multiple reasons why you broke up, something didn't work with that person. You don't really need that person hanging around in your life anymore. You both basically need to move on, and it doesn't make sense to continue to be friends with this person that you've basically already had a failed relationship with, when if you're going to ever date again, if you're going to go through that process again, you need to move on from it. And even if you're not, why do you need that vestige of your past to be part of your future? In most cases, it's not healthy. From everything I've seen from myself, from friends, anything that I've seen from the culture in general, people try to stay friends with exes. You see headlines, in other words, of people getting in trouble with their exes, and especially from a guy's point of view, right? There's animosity, there's bitterness, and there's a very much increased likelihood of a false accusation of some sort coming your way if you're a guy. There's a very much greater increase in the woman deciding that she's going to take stuff out on you again. She's going to continue to be mad at you, to assail you for things that she thinks you should do differently. Why put up with any of that? Now, an exception to this would be if you have kids with this person. If you have kids with this person, if you chose to have a child or multiple children with this former partner of yours, this is sort of a negative result that we talk about a lot in the men's community, that it's going to be very difficult to continue to play a positive role in that child's life because you're basically kicked out of the family unit. In most cases, at least, at best, you're going to get 50-50 custody. In many cases, the woman's going to get primary or sole custody of the kids. This is why you want to really think hard before trying to have children or deciding to have children in modern Western society, at the very least, in the feminized world at the very least. But if you do have kids with that person, if you can possibly be friends with your ex, if you can stand her, or if you are a woman that happens to listen to this, you can stand him for any length of time, for the sake of co-parenting, you are probably better off trying to be friends. Unless it's so crazy that you're not really getting reasonable access to your kids anyway, you don't see what positive role there is to play. There are situations where even that doesn't make sense, but for the most part, if you're going to stay in your kids' lives, you have to try to work things out as best you can. And it's in your better interest, in order to accomplish that task, that goal, to try to be friends with your ex that you have kids with. But there's another potential possibility where there's a small percentage of relationships that actually do end amicably. There's no cheating, there's no physical abuse, there's no significant verbal conflict where it's anything more than just being dissatisfied with the person. If you truly remain friends the whole time, that to me is the most sensible standard. If you actually remain friends the whole time, and it's just that you couldn't be on the same page in life. Maybe she wanted to have kids and you didn't. Maybe you got a job in a different city, and that makes it to where it doesn't make sense if she's not going to come with you. And the gender here is of minimal importance, right? This could work either way. If that other person's not going to come with you to a different city, they're not going to move, you might as well break up now and get it over with. But if you can keep things friendly the whole time. It's just that for circumstantial reasons, things didn't work out. Then maybe you consider staying friends with that person. Or maybe you don't. It's up to you. Whether you want to basically move on, as I described previously, and just be done with it, or you want to be friends with this person because you were friends before you dated, or before you were in a relationship with this person. Okay. But that's one of the rare circumstances where it kind of makes sense to stay friends, because there wasn't cheating, there wasn't abuse, there wasn't significant manipulation, lying, whatever. There weren't significant fights of any kind. It's just that it didn't work out. In those cases, it might make sense to be friends. But what I've noticed is that people kind of pretend like that happens more often than it does. Most breakups, from everything I've seen at least, do not result in that sort of amicable situation. In most cases, there's cheating, there's lying, there's abuse, there's some level of significant animosity at the very least. And it just makes sense to get that person out of your life instead. They didn't remain your friend that whole time, and so they're no longer your friend anymore. That to me makes a lot more sense, and I think is the healthier way to view whether there's any reason to remain friends with an ex or not. In most cases, unless you have kids with that person, the answer is no. There's no benefit unless you're still sleeping with that person, which is very dangerous when it comes to false accusations, or if it's a woman that wants you back, she may purposely get pregnant from you. That's a really dangerous situation to put yourself in as a guy if you're still banging an ex. You're better off to just move on. You're better off to just not deal with it. Do not be friends with an ex for its own sake, or because that person meant something to you, or anything like that. Unfortunately, when a relationship ends for any significant reason, that person is part of your past for that reason. That person did not work things out with you for a reason. Even if it was your fault, even if you're the one that cheated, you still have to pay the price for that by acknowledging that you probably need to let that person go. In many cases, though, it's going to be at least partially, if not the vast majority of the blame, is going to be on the other person. Let's just assume that's the case. That person did you wrong, that person was abusive to you, you break up with them, and it's over. There's no reason to remain friends in that type of situation. So I just want to put that out there so that if anybody is wondering about that particular question, does it really make sense to remain friends with an ex? No. Kick them out of your life and move on, unless you have kids with that person, or unless you truly remain friends the whole time. You're better off just leaving that chapter of your life in the past, moving on to bigger and better things, so to speak, or just not dating anymore and choosing to live more of a celibate lifestyle, basically, or whatever works for you, right? If you want to do the friends with benefits things with someone else, that's up to you. I'm not trying to give a moral lecture about this. What I'm saying is, very rarely does it make any sense to maintain any sort of friendship or even contact with an ex unless you have kids with that person or you truly remain friends the whole time. If anything negative went down, the breakup wasn't just circumstantial, not being on the same page and whatnot with life. If there was any sort of bad stuff that actually went down with your breakup or at any time with your ex, cut off contact, don't stay friends, and move on with your life. In the vast majority of cases, other than the exceptions that I've mentioned here, you are better off making that choice and just leaving your ex in the past.